This here's a song we wrote about a desperado from Oconee County, up in the northwest corner of South Carolina where the Blue Ridge Mountains begin to drop back down to earth. But to tell the story, we have to back up a year before because the sheriff, that's Mr. Earl Holcomb, and the county supervisor, that's Mr. Norman Crane, were fussing and feuding over who should be in charge of the county jail, otherwise known as the Oconee County Detention Center. Now, I never could figure out why either one of them wanted it, but politicians being what they are, well, let's move on. Well, they couldn't settle it among themselves, so they decided to leave it to the discretion of the voters and have a referendum. To make a long story short, the supervisor won the squeaker and became the proud landlord at the county jail. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the State Department of Corrections transfers Doyle from the state pen to, you guessed it, the Oconee County Detention Center. There, he becomes a trustee and drives around in a dump truck. By the way, did I mention he was serving 37 years for voluntary manslaughter and solicitation of murder? Now, some say he's guilty, and some say he's innocent. I ain't got no idea. I'm just here to tell a story. So he served 10 years good behavior, and then one day he just got in his dump truck and drove away. Parked that sucker out in the country, hit the woods, took off like a streaky Hank, and they ain't caught him yet. They've chased Doyle all over Highcliffe, South Carolina, with hundreds of men and dogs and heat-seeking helicopters. Lately, that boy's been sighted in more places than Elvis Presley. Well, I reckon when that music comes around again, we'll just jump in there and do what we come here to do in the first place. Shucks.
From the town of Salem came a mountain man one day. They put him on the chain gang, said they'd locked him up to stay. But the folks of Oconee still talk about that day. They put him in a dump truck, Doyle Cannon drove away. Doyle Cannon drove away. To the scene there came a man with eyes as cold as steel. Somebody cut the cords, 'cause I don't like the deal. Earl Holcomb was the sheriff, but he wouldn't take the blame. Doyle Cannon ain't my boy, he belongs to Norman Crane. Belongs to Norman Crane. He drove away, he drove away. They put him in a dump truck, and Doyle Cannon drove away. Doyle Cannon drove away. Meanwhile in the woods and Oconee Hill, Doyle Cannon still a-roaming, going where he will. The sheriff put out a dragnet with bloodhounds on his trail, said he wouldn't rest till Doyle Cannon's back in jail. Doyle Cannon's back in jail. It seems that Doyle Cannon was getting help from his kin. The sheriff sent out his deputies with words to bring them in. They brought in his cousins and his brothers to face the law. And then one dark and rainy day they brought in his ma. They brought in his ma. If you're ever in Oconee or down in Lounsville town, you'd better keep an eye out. Doyle Cannon's on the lam. This story has no moral and it ain't got no end. But if it ever gets one, we'll tell it to you then. We'll tell it to you then. He drove away, he drove away. They put him in a dump truck, and Doyle Cannon drove away. Doyle Cannon drove away. Doyle Cannon drove away. Doyle Cannon drove away.